let's dive right on into it. What I asked him to do is, our theme is around breakaway, and what were some of their real breakaway moments? And they're each going to share a couple, kind of one at a time, and then we're going to open up for Q&A. So Angela Crouch, resident home, but I think everybody knows you as Nectar and the new Dream Cloud brand that you just brought.
Right. Yep.
Come on. Does the UK need another mattress?
That's right. So it turns out, yes, they do. So last year we launched, and this company has come from the US and had stellar growth in a very competitive space. So when the opportunity came up to come to the UK, I really had to look at the competitive environment, the landscape, the product to say, well, what's our story? Why should we exist? So that started with the customer, and that started with the product. Taking a very successful US product, but then bringing it to the UK and saying, what does the UK market need? And we worked with a partner and a manufacturer in the UK to get that product the best that we could get it to be. So it was different to the very competitive market we're in. And that was really the foundation of setting up the business. And we've got thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews. We've got Which Best Buy. We've got Good Housekeeping. And we're at the National Business Awards this evening to see if we've won New Business of the Year. So my advice is focus on the product and show that there's a market opportunity. And then H2, we drove efficiency with our manufacturer and shipping to reduce our COGS. So our unit economics have got there. And within 1 year of trading, we're contribution margin positive.
And how did you clue in? How did you actually figure out how the product needed to be different and improve it? Was it focus groups, or what was the process?
So that was research with experts in the field.
Okay.
We went to some great partners in the UK and asked them for their support.
What did it cost? What's something like that cost?
It was free because the opportunity was they got the business. So let's work together with a strong partner so they could help us build the next best thing and innovate. So by doing that, they got the deal and they got some new business, and that helped obviously grow their business as well.
Got it. And real quick, how is the product different?
So we have different layers of memory foam. We have adaptive cooling technology that allows cooling and helps with different temperatures and different density to contour the support of the body. It's a bed in the box, and we're the only climate neutral product out there. So our story is different, that we're offsetting all the carbon emissions from the manufacturing, so it's climate neutral, and we're the only one in the market offering a 365-night trial. We're so confident in the product that you want to try it for a year, and it's working.
That is awesome. Eric Partaker, Chilango, you heard him also share some ideas. Also a high-performance CEO coach. And crowdfunding. You did something unique in order to scale it, because growth sucks cash.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that Chilango was actually inspired by my time at Skype, helping build that up in its early days. And so I got the taste for democratizing things, shall we say. They democratized telephony. And I really liked that idea of cutting out the middlemen and creating that network effect as they did. So that seed was always planted in the consciousnus. And then the other thing that Skype really instilled into me was the power of branding. So voice over IP had existed for 10 years prior to Skype. So why did Skype succeed? And I had distilled it down to two things. One, the product quality was just vastly superior to anything on the market at the time, and they wrapped it up in a brand that people really loved. And that's where we focused with Chilango. So I started with Michelin-starred culinary talent and worked from that way to chisel down to a product that would fit the economic model. So that was the product piece of it. On the brand side, again, I had that taste, that hunger for doing something, different and challenging. And then the idea came to, well before the dawn of all these crowdfunding platforms, to start raising the debt and the equity we needed directly from our guests and fans. And that turned fundraising into a genuine competitive advantage for us, in that we not only acquired the capital that we wanted.
Burrito bond.
Yeah.
We called it the burrito bond.
Yeah, but we also built a sales force of 2,000 brand ambassadors. So if I have my choice between having the money or the check written by a bank whose team might change in 12 months' time, so I might have a handful of brand ambassadors there, compared to the genuine, true loyalists of people who love the business and are investing in that business. And that's a choice that I would make every day. So that definitely was one of the breakaway moments for us, was coming up with that access to capital.
And how much did you raise? How many campaigns?
Oh gosh, over the years we've probably crowdfunded about 15 million or so.
15 million. So I want you to realize this isn't just pre-selling a few items.
That's a really good point too, because a lot of people think of it as like a bumper round, but this is a legitimate go-to alternative to traditional private equity and debt routes.
Yeah, and you really studied influence, human behavior, even how to structure that campaign and all of that stuff. So you're a great student.
Yeah. And if you get the emotion right, build in the social proof, and I could go on and on about each of these. But
I loved 3 references. I mean, I think it's really a great lesson for all of our websites. You found, as the research shows, 3 references. 2, people don't think you've got enough. 4 or 5, you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And you really understood that.
What the data shows is that there is a increased confidence up to, say, 3 accolades or 3 moments of praise or awards being provided. So first one, second, third. But the moment you go to the 4th, it starts to decline. Almost as if there's a subconscious, they're telling me too much here. It sounds too good to be true. Absolutely.
Been a great student. And speaking about names, so Clive Jackson, Victor, this private aircraft, air service. Tell us about the name. I think that, and I think a lot of folks have got really bad names for their companies. But if you think about Amazon, Google, Facebook, there's a reason. So talk about the name.
Okay, well, Victor's a on-demand private jet charter business, air mobility on demand. I think air mobility is the new word that we need when we're in the world of fundraising.
Side note, we think it's real critical that often if you create a new category, then you can automatically own it. And I love the fact that you have named it, and it gives you a chance then to dominate it.
Well, the whole world of private jet charter has been pretty much dominated by the intermediary, the middleman, and we really did feel that bringing a business to market that could disintermediate, bring technology in terms of product pricing and customer experience in a way where we could not only digitize it but make it faster and easier would be a new value proposition. Most importantly, we wanted to make it transparent. So recognizing who we were focusing on was absolutely key. And our customers are the world's elite. They go to the G8. They run NFL teams. They're superstars, Hollywood actors, owner, founders, CEOs. And what's in common about all of them, sports stars and chief execs, is that they want to win. Second best doesn't work in their vocabulary. It doesn't exist. They are winners. So we wanted to create a name that would resonate, that wouldn't have fly XYZ associated with it, just one single name. It's called Victor. And it's got 3 value propositions there. First of all, it's an aviation term, A Alpha, B Bravo, V Victor. Secondly, as a name, it resonates in 27 different languages, and it means simply you want to win. I'm a victor. And that represents the personality of people who can afford to fly on a private jet, chartering at any time of the day, week, or year. And that was where we really found our first breakthrough moment. Can we create that name?
And I love that this is kind of, in a way, like his word, Eric, but it's a buyer persona. And so you really have kind of driven the whole business around this buyer persona within the entire organization.
Well, I think taking a leaf out of your book, when we looked at creating this brand and this value proposition, we also needed to raise funds. So total funding, I think I've raised over the last 9 years is about 60 million US. Okay. What's interesting is I've got about 55 shareholders. 54 of them fly with us. Yeah. So if you put it into context, our early investors were the people that used the product and the service. And our average ticket size is about $25,000 a ticket. That's the starting point. So it gave us a very good entree into building an investor group that consumed the service. And secondly, they talked about it and propagated it. And thirdly, they were pretty useful in helping build a board to really then scale up.
Yeah, cool. And so let's come back. In addition to crowdfunding, you really got focused deep around high performance with your, I think, not only leadership team, but everybody in the organization. Talk about where you went with that and how that's impacted the company. And you're a restaurant chain. I mean, you know, we're thinking about high performance in other fields, but restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is, so it starts with, to be really honest, it starts with the realization, well, looking in the mirror far too many times thinking, do I have what this takes, you know, to succeed? Because it's one thing to you know, start a business as a founder. It's entirely different to scale it up as a CEO. I recognize that there's a lot of things that I could kind of get away with as a founder and do a shabby job on. And so I started to develop a much deeper respect for just how much was required to play at that level. You know, one of the coaching certifications I have with the High Performance Institute, in the study that they've done, the energy requirement of a top performing CEO is equivalent of that of a professional athlete. Yeah. So then we need to become high performers. You know, it follows that we need to become almost like corporate athletes. And so with all that in mind, I just looked at my own life, my own management style, and realized, wow, there's a big gap here. And so did a lot of work on that. And then with the leadership team, and I'll give you a few quick examples. So when I was at McKinsey, one of the terms that was constantly beat into my head was 80-20. 80-20 everything. And we all know this term, but we kind of all take it for granted. And what I wanted to do with my leadership team was really, how do you make that actionable? You know, how are you constantly thinking in that way at a both macro and micro level? You know, where are you spending your time? A lot of what we do on a daily basis is just junk, frankly. It's not really driving results. So really upskilling them in 80-20 thinking and principles. Another was delegation. So one of the things that made Skype successful is that they didn't do that classic error that I was always doing in the beginning, where you just delegate a task. Instead, they were delegating the problem solving. And so teaching that difference, again, to the leaders and the managers, what's the difference between task delegation versus delegating the problem? And then
do you take it all the way down to the front line, or is it really more the restaurant manager?
Started with the management team, but then in more of a group setting, went all the way down. The front line, they've even had courses on taking Nassim Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile.
Really?
And how do we take anti-fragile concepts and turn that into a muscle whereby you are actually developing and growing your anti-fragility, your resilience? Because, John Lennon's quote, life is what happens while we're busy making other plans. So we're constantly planning the perfect day, planning the perfect strategy, writing the business plan. It all goes out the window. And so if I can arm my leaders and managers with the resilience to both expect that and then grow from it, that's what, we got the money in, yes, through crowdfunding, but in terms of what did we do with it, with the high performance culture, last 3 years in a row, and this is now going to the restaurant rather than the coaching business, but the restaurant, 6.5% like-for-like growth for 3 years in a row. The UK restaurant industry is in the dumps right now. EBITDA has doubled, and that's because they're more resilient, they're more productive, they're more engaged, they're happier.
And Angela, so to build on that, you made a mention, but I want you to go deep on it. You really dug into the efficiencies and focused on your cost of goods sold and the rest. What were some of the very specific initiatives? How did you get everybody kind of rallied around that? And what were some ahas? Because it was an important breakthrough for you to make the business work.
So the execution is obviously key in any startup or growth business. And the framework we use, which was mentioned earlier on today's OKRs, objectives and key results. So it's very much about saying, okay, the business problem is, or the business ambition is, we've got to reduce costs, we've got to increase conversion, we've got to increase AOV, whatever it is, we agree as a team. And then the how goes to the team to figure out. So it's not a top-down exercise of just launch more products or work faster. It's about identifying the strategic mission, and then we run that on a 3-monthly cycle. And we check in every month to see how we're scoring against it. And it's incredible how effective it can be. It's so simple. It only takes an hour once a month. You go through it, and we do a retro every month. How did we succeed? And the ambition is only to get 0.7 out of 1, because it should be aspirational. This isn't about just doing hygiene. This is about big rocks and levers in the business. What are we going to do that's going to change the business in 12 weeks? And it's been fantastic to get the team energized and owning that, and they own the how. They decide, okay, do you want to do 3 things in 12 weeks or 1 thing? But we've all signed up to say these are the OKRs, and it's worked for us incredibly.
Can you go deep on one? Just give us an example of one how you stated it, and what the team did to fix it.
Sure. So the unit economics is a big one for us starting up. We wanted to prove there's a market opportunity. Does anybody need another mattress company in the UK? And that was what the first 6 months was doing, proving that there was a market there. We've got a different value prop. But you're meeting with new partners, and it's early days. We didn't have
partners.
Manufacturing partners.
Manufacturing partners.
So we're in the UK. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody really cares. And you're trying to build relationships, so nobody's going to give you any good deals, frankly. So the first 6 months was not about focusing and derailing your attention on that. Don't get caught up with trying to have a product that's 70% margin if you haven't proven that there's a business there. So we focused on getting that right. And then once we got to what we call critical mass, for sure, for a startup, we then spent H2 on driving the efficiency of the manufacturing process, working with a partner. How do we get more efficiency? Working with a logistics partner. How do we improve that? Because by then we had a track record. We can see that you guys have got a business here, and now we want to work with you for the long term. And 6 months after that, our unit economics are looking really good.
So the partner allowed you to go inside, and did you just stand there in like the Toyota lean process and stand there and watch it being manufactured? What actually happened there?
So this is a brainstorming opportunity where you go back to and share the problem, really, which is this is where we need to get to. This is a team internal objective as much as we need a partner that's going to help us get there. Can we figure out how we do that together? And that's what we did, and we came up with solutions for that together. And it's a win-win for everybody, because they've got a nice contract with us, and they're going to work with us to grow the business. We've got the economics that we need to scale the business, and we're continuing to invest in scaling that and increasing the brand equity.
And what I love about this is we get a lot of focus around efficiencies within our organization, but they're saying the real future is at the boundaries, the efficiencies between us and our suppliers and our market and our customer and our distribution channels. Clive, I want to come back to you. You turned a weakness into a massive strength. And your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess the weakness really is, when...
By the way, I loved your... when we were talking about this in the green room, what was your throwaway comment? But I didn't think it was a throwaway comment. When you turn weaknesses into strengths, you said...
You just, you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
Do that all the time.
Particularly when you get Greta Thunberg up there championing the issue of the environment. But on a very serious note, look, Victor has made it into the Sunday Times top 100 fastest growing tech track companies for 5 years on the trot. I mean, that's a pretty good achievement for all the team that worked in Victor. But one of the challenges facing us, and me in particular, was wrestling with this issue of how do we do something that's has a real positive social and environmental impact when Actually, I'm in the business of polluting the environment. And I think, fundamentally, who would have thought a private jet boss would be someone standing up there championing, how do we address the issues of the environment? And this year, we had a complete U-turn in terms of how we presented the brand. We wanted to become the world's most environmentally responsible aviation company, but it started with actually stepping forward and owning this issue and admitting this issue. And we're in a privileged position to do it. We are a jet business. We're the second largest in Europe. We fly the good and the great. They sit in these little aluminium tubes for hours at a time. Wow, I need to have a dialogue with them. And the dialogue was to raise this concern and see whether we could get them on board. And this started with a campaign that said, advertising campaign, open letter to the FT, double-page spread. Our planes pollute the world's atmosphere 20 times more than if you flew on a civil aviation airliner. That's on a per passenger seat. That was, half my board thought I should be fired, the other half applauded me, and we went out with that campaign. And our whole mission is to drive awareness of the emissions, accept that we pollute at some phenomenal scale, and then recognize that we've got to do something about it. And it starts with us. It's not just because we want to differentiate our brand, because that's just greenwashing. It's because I personally care about it. And I think if we are going to make a difference and stop governments coming and taxing the hell out of aviation per se, we had to put forward a campaign that said avoid, reduce, and that reducing is through smart technology. And smart technology happens to be rerouting through smart flight plans so that you could reduce the journey time, reduce the fuel burn. I happen to own one of the world's leading flight planning companies as well. So I bought that off BP Ventures a couple of years ago. So we have the technology to do that for every airliner and every private aviation business. So introduce sustainable aviation fuel. It costs a ton of money. It's like hen's teeth. But unless people are putting their hands up and saying, yeah, I want it, well, the guys and girls in my planes, they can afford it.
Yeah.
So let's promote that. Let's get them to put their hand up. And then finally, ultimately, the big issue here is if you are flying, you are creating emissions. So let's not get embroiled into the debate about, where and how climate change is occurring. Let's just focus on the fact that a jet engine pollutes. And in that instance, we mandated, as of 1 July, 200% of all emissions are offset by us. That's my marketing dollar. So I've taken a third of my global marketing budget and I'm buying carbon offsets, granted, from the best providers in the world today. And now we've thrown the gauntlet down to every person who flies on our plane, who may well have created that business that you once worked for. I don't know, I couldn't say. And we're saying to them, all right, we've paid 200% out of our pocket. Verne, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And what's really interesting in the aviation space, civil aviation, less than 30 airlines out of 3,000 in the world offer carbon offsetting. Less than 30. And out of those 30, less than 2% of all people who fly put their hand in their pocket. And yet this industry is coming under the spotlight. Fairly or unfairly, who cares? We have a platform, and I feel I have an obligation to do something. So when I think about corporate profit returning to shareholders, I also have to think about the social impact and the environmental impact that we have. And hell, the staff have got totally behind it. It's an amazing process.
Yeah, and a great way to retain talent.
Great way to retain talent, and ultimately the proof in the pudding is, look, we have to be transparent about what we're doing. So when I launched this program, I had no idea whether I'd succeed or fail. I still don't. But if I could get 20% of my flyers in the next 12 months to put their hand in their pocket, wow. At the moment, we're at 8%, and we've been going 100 days. So that's where we are today. But I think what's really important is that we've created this idea that CEOs and co-founders, business leaders, can actually do something different. So off the back of this program, we've created a Beyond Offset movement, which is for guys like you that are thinking about what do they want to do differently. So Angela, you're already there. You should be part of this movement where we champion business leaders who are doing something positive in their industry to set an example. Because there are tons of CEOs out there who are looking to be able to champion what they do on a platform with like-minded people where they can make a difference. And this is not about disrupting the world. This is about saying, let's positively inspire other people. So this all came through as my breakthrough moment.
All right, so we've got 5 minutes. Great breakthroughs for crowdfunding, naming, efficiencies, tackling a crowded industry. So do we have any questions coming in here, or do I just need to grab them from the audience? I am not. I'm not sure I'm seeing any here. So who's got some questions? This unbelievable distinguished panel that we have. Yes, please.
So all of your businesses are about scaling. One of the questions I had is, how does tech and technology and emerging technology, obviously including data, play into the strategy of how you do that?
Well, clearly, Clive, you mentioned you've got the routing technology and things like that, but Eric, restaurants.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two big trends that you have to tackle in the restaurant industry. One is plant-based menu, but the tech one is delivery. So all the third-party delivery platforms that have entered the space, there's a lot of resistance early on from restaurant chains, including us, not to want to participate in that. And then I caught myself because I said, oh gosh, this is actually how Skype disaggregated the telephony industry. Now it's happening to me. And you need to embrace it. And so we did that. We redesigned packaging to fit with delivery. We obviously trained up all of our staff to produce food at the level and the speed that works with those delivery partners. And working with those tech partners has meant that delivery 3 years ago was 0% of our sales. It's now 25% and continues to grow. So tech in that regard has been a massive surprise, but actual blessing for the company. So.
Good. Any drone deliveries yet? I mean, are you guys serious?
We've just bought 3 catapults. So we will start launching burritos to wherever you are.
We'll do the flight planning for you, Drew.
Yeah, there you
no
go.
problem. We'll make sure they get there.
And Angela, I assume you're bracing a lot of technology to get those efficiencies.
Yes, so our engineering team's based in Israel, so a lot of our back office is proprietary. The strategic decision is that we want to build our own so that we're the masters of our own destiny. And that there's pros and cons for that for sure, but it enables us to be a house of brands, which is the residents' ambition. We're selling mattresses today, but tomorrow that will extend. And it's also about collecting that big data, as well from a marketing efficiency point of view, that we want that lifetime value of the customer. We want them buying not only a mattress today, but a rug in 6 months from us as well. So there's a lot of investment happening in that area of the business.
Any secret sensors in the mattress or anything like that?
We're always working with our partners to look at new innovations and testing new products. I think that's the spirit of our business anyway, and I personally am very passionate about it. So we've got a few things we're working on.
Good. All right. Next question. Yes, please.
We've talked a little bit at our table about the role of founders. And Eric, you talked about this. Starting a company is different than scaling it up. Can you talk about your experiences of founders, whether your view is they should exit, change roles, or change the way they behave in the company to make that transition successfully?
Yeah.
Who would like to tackle? Eric, go ahead.
Well, you absolutely have to change because what makes a great founder, I do not personally think makes a great CEO. I think there's huge benefit if the founder can make that transition and cross that chasm. There's so much benefit for the company. Because there then you have in the leadership the person who doesn't know how to recite the story, but lives the story. They are the brand. They are the culture still. And that is irreplaceable to the degree that you can keep that. So I think from a private equity point of view, if they can train up their founders to become CEOs, it's advantageous. I think from a culture point of view, and I think ultimately also from a customer point of view, in that the founder tends to be so passionate about the things that really drive the customer satisfaction. But it's not natural, and there's a big gap, and it requires a lot of training to close that gap.
I would echo that. I think certainly as a founder of 14 companies now over a 30-year period, I think the thing that I've always asked myself, exactly what you mentioned, Eric, am I up for the job? Can I evolve? And it does require you to be very self-aware, and it also requires you to ask your board every year, I'm ready to go, do you still want me? Rather than flip it the other way. Start with the premise that you're not good enough, let them make that third-party assessment, but it constantly requires you to evolve and test yourself. And I think as a founder, it's really exciting. A 5-person startup to a couple of hundred now in 4 countries. This is challenging, and if you're still open, you're willing to learn, it's fun.
Okay. Angela?
Well, I'm not the founder of the business,
Right.
so I've come in as the managing director to operate it. I definitely feel that friction, but I get a lot of autonomy to run the business as I want and make local decisions. And I have a leadership team of specialists that are great in their fields, and I have no issue with delegating to them. It's really important that they feel they've got full autonomy. I'm not micromanaging them, and it works really well. We've got very clearly defined roles about who does what, and we operate very smoothly.
Yeah, a couple of interesting points on that. I think it's why Andreessen Horowitz, they've really differentiated themselves in Silicon Valley, because they said, we really think the founder matters, and we can actually teach them to be a CEO, and they work really hard to make sure that happens. And you were a co-founder, Eric, and I think what the other research that's come out is that co-founders scale faster than single, 3 do better than 2, 4 do better than 3, and 5 do better than 4. Then you run out of data points in order to kind of back that up, but because you can kind of divide up the duties day one.
Absolutely.
And you were able to do that, I think, well, with your co-founder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of inside, outside, operations, sales kind of thing.
Yeah, completely.
I think we got time for one more question. Please.
Hi, everyone. It's a question probably to Eric, if I may point. Following up on your comment that 2 better than 1, 3 better than 2, wouldn't it be equivalent to saying, but 10 not definitely better than 9? Because there should be some probably optimal number of co-founders to make business optimal, because like too many investors in business not necessarily is the best for business.
Yeah,
you need to have optimal number of people to move business effectively forward.
Yeah, I don't know what that number is, but presumably, the mathematics of it should draw a parallel with the influence stuff that we're talking about. At some point, the curve will change.
Yeah.
Most things are U-shaped, right? In my experience, 2 has definitely been better than 1, but that comes with a caveat. So for us, for my co-founder and I, Daniel Houghton, we tested literally polar opposites in the psychometric profiles, such that the combination created a human being that doesn't exist. So that was hugely beneficial. There was a setup at one time when he wasn't a co-founder, but there was a third person in the picture, and it didn't work as well. So I don't know if 2 is the breaking point or not, but I definitely know that 2, and for this matter, a lot of people don't realize that what they think is a powerful solitary leader is in fact a duo in disguise. So there was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. There was Walt Disney and his brother as well, and then there was Ray Kroc and Fred Turner. So there's a lot of duos. It's just that the front man, that's all the people see. So I think there's more duos and co-founders than people realize.
Yeah, good. Clive, Eric, Angela, we're out of time, way out of time. But if you would, give them a huge hand for sharing. Thank you so much.